everybody. This is First Up, playing all this EDM DJ music. This is Kygel. Is there any DJ that has a normal name? Is there DJ Steve? Does he exist? I know I sound like an old man. That's Carlo. I'm Kaz. You are listening to the final hour of First Up. Excited for our next guest because give a very different perspective on a lot of the players you are going to see at the Four Nations Face-Off. It is Andy O'Brien, Director of Player Health and Performance with Cortex Management and Chief Performance Officer at Cizzle Brands. This man has trained so many of the All-Stars you're going to be watching and the All-Star of this show, Carlo.
One of the best, Matty. One of the best.
Andy O'Brien. Andy, good morning. Thanks for being on the show today.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. How you doing, Carlo? It's been a while.
It's been a long time, buddy. If I wanted to make a comeback to the NHL, do you think I could give you a quick call and you could create a program for me again?
Let's give ourselves a little window to work on that, but sure, let's get after it.
How long of a window would it require, Andy, with you at your best and your team of geniuses, to get Carlo back on the ice?
I think we'd have to do some testing to see where we're at. Maybe see what's going on in the body there these days.
Yeah, a lot going on in the body. Probably going to take a year for me to get back to full high performance. But I'm enjoying my post career, and obviously my hockey career was a great one, a long one, and a lot of it had to do with you helping me extend my career into my late 30s. But I'd love to know your role in that you continue to play in today's game. You still train a lot of the top players. What do you notice about the top players like Crosby, McKinnon, Eichel, the Kachucks? What do you notice about those guys and their training, regimens that allow them to be high-performance athletes in today's game?
Well, I think, it's kind of a niche that I've had, as you know, working with sort of this elite crowd within the game. And I would say probably the thing that's most common among them is that competitive drive. And no matter what they're doing on the ice, off the ice, there's never really a day where it's not in that fully competitive state. Like every day is a game 7, full preparation, full compete level, full intensity level. I think they're just able to sustain that a little bit longer than everyone else. And they're also willing to make the personal sacrifices effortlessly. They don't feel like sacrifices because they've just prioritized their whole life around this game. And I think that's kind of what separates those guys.
So let's talk about the modern day athlete. I mean, you're looking at guys that are still extending their careers playing at a high level. What is the area of focus with these athletes when it comes to the training aspect, because people think that, lifting heavy weights is the way to go to get bigger and stronger. But what are the things that you focus on that really, it caught my eye when I started working with you, when it was more of just, specific to the individual themselves? I mean, I enjoyed a lot of the band training that you created, a lot of the agility work. Is each program designed differently with each person, and what is it that you really focus on when training these guys?
Yeah, there is quite a bit of variety, I would say, amongst the athletes. I actually have some athletes who are doing a fair bit of lifting because that's what they need, and then others that are doing a completely different style of training. So much of it really depends on that player, their game, their body, their genetics. As you know, in hockey, if you look in a locker room, you see a lot of different genetic profiles. So you see some really big guys, some really small guys, like how this game can have a Zdeno Chara and a Lane Hudson in the same sport, same position. That just tells you you're dealing with a lot of different types of individuals. So I think what the big thing that I learned, Carlo, my first NHL training camp, my first NHL job was in 2005 with the Panthers. And I went down there and did a whole bunch of testing at training camp and realized pretty quickly when you look at the results of the test that some of the best players on the team, and there were some elite players then, didn't score very well on a lot of these standard off-ice tests. And there were some players that scored really well that just weren't great players. They couldn't play at the NHL level. And I think the excuse at the time was looking at that and saying, okay, well, if you could get these ultra-skilled players to work on some of these off-ice things, they'd be better players. But I took a different perspective on that. To me, it made me curious. I was wondering what I was missing or what I'm not capturing with respect to this type of information. And I knew that, although these players weren't scoring well in some of these basic fitness tests, they have physical qualities that are contributing to their performance on the ice. A lot of it is agility, acceleration, some of the movement qualities that they have, anticipation, understanding of space and time. These are all physical qualities. And so that ability, I think for me, it just made me curious over time to try to find what correlates off ice and on ice. What are the things off ice that I really need to value? And it kind of paints a picture that there's a lot of different qualities in the game. Some of them are speed and power related. Some are just, sheer strength related. Some are endurance related. Some are movement related and movement skill related. And so when you break it down, you can really assess a player and then find out which rabbit hole you need to go down with that player to get the best results.
Andy, you brought up a little bit earlier about the true superstars. These are the guys that treat every day at practice, every training session with you as Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Which of all the stars, and I'm sure they're all, of course, you're at that level, everyone has that level of dedication. Is there one that stands out the most where you're like, you know what? You're a bit of a psycho. You need to dial it back. You don't, it's just a training session on a Wednesday. Is there one guy that stands out the most about who is the most intense at every moment?
Yeah, that obviously Sid and Nate really stand out in that way. Sid's always been like that, since day one, and I've worked with him for close to 25 years now. And yeah, he is like that all the time. Doesn't matter what it is. It's ultra competitive. You really can get wrapped up in that drive to be the best and applying that every day and every little thing that he does. And then Nate came along, and Nate was the first guy I really met that matched that. And, although those guys are friends, they can have heated battles on a daily basis, through an entire off season. It's actually pretty amusing to watch, but scary at the same time because it kind of derails what I'm trying to do as a trainer sometimes. But it's actually, it's incredible to see those guys and just that sheer drive and sheer competitive energy that they have on a day-in, day-out basis. It's intimidating because they're such good athletes and they're such incredibly gifted hockey players at the same time. I wouldn't want to play against them.
So, Andy, one of the most popular camps to attend in the summertime is the Vail camp that you host in Vail, Colorado, where a lot of the better NHL players gather to participate in a week-long camp. Can you help our listeners understand, the camp itself, what it is that you focus on, what it is the players are doing, and what the camp is all about?
Yeah, it's such a great time out there. It's definitely my favorite time of the year, and really started when I was the strength coach in Florida that first time around. I think it was 2006 we did the first camp out there. And Marty Jelena and Ed Belfour were players on the Panthers at the time. And in that week leading up to training camp, it's usually a little bit of a zoo around the arena. You've got all the American League players, some East Coast players there. There's a lot of extra staff around. The gym is busy. Ice sessions kind of get a little bit disorganized. And I think that those guys, being legends in their own careers, they wanted to get away and go somewhere where they could mentally and physically just prepare for the season. And Eddie had been out there actually with the Dallas Stars when they were going out there. I think their owner had a place there, and they had gone out there as a group a couple of times when they won in '99. So he had suggested it, and we go out there, and obviously Vail is beautiful. There's 5-star hotels, great restaurants, and there happens to be a rink there that doesn't have minor hockey. So the rink itself isn't busy. It's just quiet, as you know. And it's, beautiful facilities, turf fields. And so we really just set it up with, with the right staff and the right people, and make it an event that's just all about the players and doing what they love and enjoying a little time away with each other to work on their craft. And it's become such a cool event, especially when you have elite players on different teams that get to see how each other trains, things they do with their equipment, be on the ice. It's very stimulating in that way. And there's no media. It's very quiet, very private. And for that reason, we've been able to, to create a really cool event with a lot of good players that want to be there.
With Andy O'Brien, Director of Player Health and Performance with Cortex Management and Chief Performance Officer at Cizzle Brands. And Andy, when you're talking about, developing and training, athletes to become elite, nutrition is a big part of it, and so is hydration. your involvement with Cizzle Brands. You guys, provide the Quench hydration drink. How important is it for these athletes to have, the hydration and the nutrition that is involved in helping them perform at a high level?
Well, when we got kind of started with Cizzle Brands, we decided that our first category that we really wanted to work in from a product standpoint was the hydration category. And it's simply because hydration matters. And I don't think that there's necessarily a lot of really good information around how much you should drink and how valuable and important that is to your recovery, to your performance, and to your overall health. And so that is a category that we feel is really important, and we wanted to be in that category. And second to that, what we've noticed is a lot of the beverages that kids consume and that athletes consume over the course of the day to get their hydration has a lot of things in it that aren't necessarily the best for you, sugar being the main thing, but also a lot of artificial flavors, sweeteners, different types of ingredients that aren't necessarily on point with what these athletes should be putting in their body. So we realized that if we could have a drink that's sugar-free, naturally sweetened, doesn't have the artificial flavors and colors, we're doing something good there by actually removing some of those things and working on really high-quality minerals and vitamins in these drinks that are going to be well absorbed and in the right ratios for athletes. So we're pretty excited about Quench, and one of the things that I think we've done really well at Cizzle is we've made it taste good, and that's a huge part of it. Obviously, people don't like drinking and consuming things that don't taste great, and had lots of great feedback on Quench, and pretty excited to be a part of that so far.
So, Andy, really appreciate you joining us today. We're up against the clock, but I got to ask you one last question. You own 2 Stanley Cup rings, one with Pittsburgh Penguins and now recently one with the Florida Panthers. How often do you rock those things out?
Well, it's actually 3. I got 2 with Pittsburgh and 1 with Florida.
Carlo, you sold them out.
Yeah.
Sorry
for
that.
It's funny. They're so big you can't even get them on the same finger. So, you have to wear maybe 2 at a time on one hand. It's hard to get all 3 of them on there. So, it's pretty amazing. The game of hockey is so special in the sense that they make the staff feel very much a part of these types of events, and obviously the names and the cups and the rings and stuff like that. Just truly grateful and humbled to have been around those types of things.
You got to do it like Bill Belichick. Wear them all, wear them proud. Andy, really appreciate it. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, guys. All the best.
You too, Andy.
Yeah, Andy O'Brien, trainer to the Hockey Stars, maybe the best way to call him. On the other side, Josh Lewinberg is going to join us. The Raptors won the sort of game that makes you ignore mock drafts, and we talk about the Brandon Ingram extension next.